Mother, son of prominent South Carolina family found shot dead. Grandfather dies days later, reads the NBC headline on the 13th of June 2021. Paul Murdaugh, aged 22, and his mother Margaret, aged 52, affectionately known as Maggie, were found shot dead at the family's home in Arlington, South Carolina. The deaths appeared to be a double homicide. Paul was involved in a tragic boat accident back in 2019. On the evening of the 23rd of February, while sailing his family boat, allegedly drunk, Paul crashed and took the life of 19-year-old Mallory Beach. Mallory had recently graduated from Wade Hampton High School and was working in a local clothing boutique, but her end goal was to become an interior designer. Her aunt, Lynn Revis, said everybody loved her. She was a popular girl with many friends and a boyfriend named Anthony Cook. On this evening, 6 teenagers, Paul, Anthony, Mallory, Miley, Connor and Morgan, arrived at the Murdaughs' river house after heading out in the boat around 7 p.m. They spent the evening at the house partying, according to Miley, who said they left around midnight, with Paul insisting he would drive the boat to a bar in Beaufort. The boat was tied up around 12:45 a.m. and Paul and Connor were both recorded at a bar drinking shots using fake IDs. The rest of the group stayed outside. Around 1 a.m, the party headed back to the boat, with people stating Paul was intoxicated and beginning to act out. They left on the boat at 1:15 a.m, where Miley states an argument broke out. Paul was acting drunk and driving the boat irrationally around in circles. Anthony wanted to be let off, but Paul refused, and Morgan stated he left the wheel several times to argue with her. Around an hour later, the boat crashed into a bridge, where Mallory was launched out into the dark waters. It was Connor who placed the 911 call, and an immediate investigation began. While speaking to his mother after the incident, Anthony said, "We hit a bridge in the boat. We can't find Mallory, Mum." Anthony was filmed utterly beside himself, as Paul seemed to have no remorse for what he had just done to Mallory. He quickly gave Paul's details to the police and stated that he was intoxicated with alcohol whilst driving the boat. The boat had bloodstains and was completely wrecked. All but Anthony were taken to the hospital as he wanted to stay at the scene. Connor had a broken jaw, Morgan an injured hand. Mallory's father, Philip Beach, was beside himself when he heard the news. He doted on his daughter, saying she was a lovely, caring person. She had a passion for less fortunate people as well as neglected and stray animals. Her faith meant a lot to her. An immediate search went underway as officers tried to determine exactly how the crash happened. While in hospital, Paul's blood was drawn and came back with an alcohol limit of 0.24, which is 3 times over the legal limit. However, in the final report, the cause of the accident was stated as no proper lookout. Alcohol or intoxication was not listed at all, but there was a cooler found filled with alcohol that the 6 people aboard the boat had allegedly been consuming, as well as CCTV footage of Paul purchasing alcohol at a local shop using ID belonging to his brother, and further CCTV of him loading the cooler into the boat. Now, Philip believes the final report had been tampered with, leaving him feeling betrayed. The original lead investigator's wife was a paralegal for the Murdaugh family, although it is said once these details emerged he was removed to avoid a conflict of interest. But this still did not mean that Paul did not get away with the crime. The Murdaugh family were powerful, well-known, and had money to spend or silence. They had been well-known and successful in the area since the 19th century. That kind of money unfortunately talks. Mallory's body tragically would not be found until the 3rd of March, 5 miles down the river from the crash site. Her family filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Murdaugh family, and on the 18th of April, what would have been Mallory's 20th birthday, her family were instead hearing the news that Paul would finally be indicted and charged with 3 felony accounts of boating under the influence, including causing the death of Mallory and the injuries to Connor and Morgan. He pled not guilty and was out on bond awaiting trial when the unthinkable happened. On the 7th of June 2021, Alex Murdaugh discovered the bodies of Maggie and Paul near the dog kennels on the family property, and both of them had been shot. 10 days later, Alex's brothers went on Good Morning America, defending Alex and saying he did not kill his wife and son. The family offered a $100,000 reward for any information leading to the culprit of the murders. 3 months later, on September 3rd, Alex resigned from his law firm, Peters, Murdaugh, Parker, Elstroth and Dietrich, and just 1 day later, the case took another shocking turn. Alex was changing a tyre on his car when another vehicle passed and he was shot in the head. Luckily, the wound was superficial and it was stated that it was not self-inflicted. He then publicly announced his resignation and checked into a rehab facility, stating the deaths of his wife and son had caused an incredibly difficult time. But the firm claimed Alex had misappropriated funds, which was currently under investigation, and led to Alex's law license being suspended on the 8th of September 2021. Just under a week later, a man named Curtis Edward Smith, aged 61, was arrested in connection with Alex's shooting. He was charged with assisted suicide, assault, and battery of a high aggravated nature, pointing and presenting a firearm, insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit insurance fraud. This was followed by an announcement from lawyers saying Alex had set up his own shooting. He was drug-fueled and not in the right mental place when he hired Curtis to shoot and kill him. This turned out to be an extension of Alex's opioid addiction. Many people had become dependent on the large amounts of money Alex spent to fuel his addiction, including the payment to kill him. On the same day as this revelation, a lawsuit was filed against Alex after the death of one of his household staff, Gloria Satterfield, back in 2018. She died after falling in the family home. Her sons alleged that Alex approached them, saying if they sued him, they would get a life insurance payout against their mother. It amounted to $505,000, but they claimed Alex never paid out. The following day, on the 16th of September, Alex turned himself in for conspiring with Curtis against his own death in order for a beneficiary to collect life insurance. He was charged with insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, and filing a false police report. Curtis agreed to a public defender and was put on a bond of $55,000. His case is still ongoing. Alex was placed on a $20,000 personal recognizance bond where he was to stay in a rehab facility or face arrest. As little as 2 weeks later, Alex was sued again, this time by his former law firm. The lawsuit alleged Alex had funneled funds stolen from clients into fake bank accounts for many years. He was then arrested and charged in connection to stealing the life insurance funds from Gloria on the 14th of October, with her family claiming he stole over $14 million. 2 months later, on the 13th of December, his bond was set at $7 million on charges for over 50 financial crimes. The following year, in 2022, Alex was indicted on the 28th of June for 2 conspiracy counts alongside Curtis: murder of his wife and son on the 14th of July, and tax evasion on the 16th of December, after claims were made that he failed to pay $490,000 in state tax over a 10-year period. He was also permanently disbarred during this time. By the end of 2022, he was facing over 100 criminal charges. On the 23rd of January 2023, the murder investigation of Maggie and Paul began. Originally, Alex had claimed he had found the bodies and had not been present at the property, but footage from Paul's phone showed Alex putting a dog back into the kennels where the bodies were found just mere minutes before the murders. Alex was adamant he did not kill the pair, but did admit to lying about his whereabouts, and he was actually at the property, blaming the drugs he was on at the time causing him to have a paranoid thinking. But the defence claimed that the 2 shootings would have left the killer covered in blood. Instead, they presented the theory of 2 killers. The jury were also taken to the scene of the crime in order to get a better idea of what could have happened. They were not allowed to talk or ask questions while at the property. The trial lasted 5 weeks and had over 70 witnesses, but eventually the jury reached their decision on the 2nd of March. Alex Murdaugh was found guilty of 2 counts of murder and 2 counts of possession of a weapon in the commitment of a violent crime. He showed no emotion during the sentencing. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson stated, "No one in society is above the law," a brief nod to the thoughts on the family by Anthony and Mallory's father Philip. The theory was Alex murdered his wife and son to distract from the financial wrongdoings he was committing. He was given consecutive life sentences. On the 10th of March, Alex filed a notice of appeal, stating, "I'm innocent. I would never hurt my wife Maggie, and I would never hurt my son, Paul." He was then indicted on federal fraud charges on the 24th of May 2023. In September, he filed a motion for a new trial, claiming the jury had been tampered by Becky Hill, the Colleton County Court clerk. Although jurors testified of the alleged tampering, the judge ultimately denied the appeal. On the 21st of September, Alex pled guilty to all of the federal fraud charges against him, and 2 months later, on the 17th of November, he pleaded guilty to 22 of the 101 state financial charges that were against him. This was part of a plea agreement with a 27-year prison sentence. 8 days later, he was sentenced to 27 years, and under the plea agreement he will serve at least 85% of that, just over 22 years. His charges included bank fraud, wire fraud and money laundering, stemming from Murdaugh's schemes to steal millions from his clients and the firm where he served as partner. A week before the sentencing, Alex failed a polygraph test which regarded $6 million in stolen funds, but his attorneys claimed the questions were not standard polygraph questions and the results should not be taken into consideration. The trials do not stop there. On the 8th of July 2015, the body of Stephen Smith was found, believed to be the victim of a hit and run, despite no evidence. But when the murders of Maggie and Paul were being investigated, police found a clue that has blown the cold case wide open. Stephen, a nursing student, had last spoken to his mother Sandy on the 1st of July 2015, where he had told her he was going on a fishing trip with a prominent person, but did not say who. There was a storm on the day of the trip, so Sandy told him to let her know when he arrived. He texted her, "I made it safe, Mom. Mama, I love you." On the 8th of July, a local man discovered Stephen's body lying in the road and immediately called 911. There were no skid marks, car debris or injuries consistent with a hit and run, just a head wound that investigators believed could be a gunshot. His car was found not long after, nearly 3 miles away, with its petrol cap missing. Investigators immediately found this suspicious and believed the car was staged. The two running theories were either Stephen had run out of petrol and was walking down the road in search, or the scene had been staged. His mother heard the news of a body being found on the radio and was immediately on edge due to the location being close to Stephen's father's house and the fact Stephen had not returned home that night. An autopsy was held later that day and revealed the head wound was not a gunshot but blunt force trauma sustained by being hit with a vehicle. Sandy disagreed. She knew her son and was adamant he would not have been walking in the road in the dark. On the 17th of July, the Murdaughs came into play. An officer was informed that Buster Murdaugh, Alex's son, had been in a car that night with friends and had seen Stephen in the road and struck him with an object. This was followed by many other rumours, but there was no hard evidence of Buster being involved, as far as the public know. The clue found during the investigation of Maggie and Paul has been kept a secret as they did not want Alex's trial to overshadow their findings. But Buster has disputed any claims. "I unequivocally deny any involvement in his death and my heart goes out to the Smith family," he said during a public statement. December of 2015, another suspect was named as Sean Connolly, after he told his friend Darren Williams he had hit a deer with his car on the same evening Stephen was killed. However, the police did not speak to either of the two men. The case then went cold until police found this new clue in 2021, giving Stephen's mother new hope. She is now represented by two powerful attorneys, Eric Bland and Ronnie Richter, who are determined to get Sandy the justice she deserves. They managed to get Stephen's body exhumed and re-examined in April of 2023, where it was determined there was blunt force trauma and it had happened where he had found. He had not been moved or staged to look like a hit and run. But it still could have been a hit and run, according to Dr. Kenny Kinsey, who says it very well could have been a truck mirror. But now we wait for more public information and hopefully an answer for Sandy. In September of 2023, she set up the Stephen Nicholas Smith Memorial Scholarship, providing full annual scholarships for students in need in memory of her son. She is also offering a $30,000 reward for any information. Mallory Beach's family also set up Mal's Pals, a non-profit organisation helping to build an animal shelter in Hampton County. While it seems Mallory's family may never get answers for her death due to Alex's selfish actions, we can only hope Sandy is spared the same fate and find out exactly what happened to Stephen. If you have any information, email SLED at tips@sled.sc.gov today. Let me know your opinions in the comments down below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe.